Welcome, everyone, to the fourth meeting of the Interim Joint Committee on Veterans, Military Affairs, and Public Protection. This meeting is called to order. Assistant, please call the roll.
Senator Berg. Present. Senator Boswell. Here. Senator Higdon. Senator Nunn.
Here.
Senator Reed.
Here.
Senator Richardson. Here. Senator Smith. Senator Tishner. Senator Wilson.
Here.
Senator Yates. Representative Blanton.
Present.
Representative Bratcher.
Present.
Representative Dossett. Representative Dotson. Representative Freeland. Representative Fugit. Representative Gooch.
Here.
Representative Hart.
Here.
Representative Johnson.
Here.
Representative Lewis.
Here.
Representative Maddox.
Here.
Representative Massaroni. Representative Moore.
Here.
Representative Proctor.
Present.
Representative Roberts. Representative Sharp.
Present.
Representative Stevenson. Representative Tackett Lafferty.
Present.
Representative Thomas.
Present.
Representative Wesley. Co-Chair McCool.
Here.
Co-Chair Deneen.
Here. There being a quorum present, we are duly constituted to do business. At this time, I would like to ask Representative Tackett Lafferty to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and then followed by Representative Massaroni to lead us in prayer.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day and your blessings. I ask you to put your hand upon our state and our nation, and also to bless our first responders and our military. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I'm going to be in Harrison County by 2:30.
Oh, that's that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Before we get started, I would like to welcome, I don't know if he's here yet, but I know there was some traffic on the Bluegrass, but I would like to welcome a new member to the committee, Representative Dotson. So we're glad to have him, and I know he's on his way if he's not here right now. Just a minor adjustment to the agenda just before we get started in what's on the list there. I'd like to have Senator Richardson just for a brief announcement, if he would report to the table.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I do appreciate this opportunity to speak today in Hopkinsville at the Western Kentucky Veterans Cemetery. There are several names of veterans that are being interned there. This is being done by the Missing in America Project, which is a nonprofit for veterans. For those that are not familiar with the project, they have a joint effort with private and public dollars to locate, identify, and inter unclaimed cremated remains of American veterans. Many veterans die with no family, or they are cremated, and those remains sit unclaimed at hospitals, funeral homes, or other county facilities. And this organization works with, again, public and private dollars. And just briefly, with the graciousness of the chair in this committee, I wanted to read those names that are being interned in our Veterans Cemetery today, their branch of service, and how long that they waited to be given their proper resting place with full military honors. Troy Ree Vaughn, U.S. Navy, 15 years, 5 months, 6 days. Joe Michael Love, United States Navy, 17 years, 3 months, 23 days. Thomas Hayes Ryan, U.S. Navy, 13 years, 1 month, 18 days. David Irvin Sunderman, U.S. Air Force, 12 years, 5 months, 7 days. Stephen Allen Maiden, U.S. Marines, 4 years, 6 months, 20 days. John Osborne Huggins III, U.S. Army, 1 year, 10 months, 10 days. John A. Crow, U.S. Army, 15 years, 5 months, 14 days. Harold L. Hatfield, U.S. Army, 18 years, 2 months, 14 days. John Wayne Childers, U.S. Army, 3 years, 7 months, 16 days. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator, and we are very grateful for the many volunteers that make that program possible to bring those loved ones back to their families, and we're very grateful for their service and what they do for the Commonwealth and for our country, and God bless those that have served. At this time, I would like to have the committee, please, everybody's had the minutes. If you would, please, if I have a motion to accept the minutes from the August. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. The minutes are approved. All right, on to the today's agenda. We have 3 presentations, and at this time, I would like to have the Urban Search and Rescue folks that are here to approach the table. As many of the committee members know, we funded the Kentucky's Urban Search and Rescue, and this was in addition to the many services that we do provide, and this was sorely needed, as we all know of the many tragedies across the Commonwealth, and so very excited to have this update, and thank you all for coming today. Please introduce yourselves for the record, and if you would, anybody in the audience, please make sure your cell phones are turned off at this time.
Good morning, sir. I'm Charles Jones. I'm the Executive Director of the Department of Military Affairs. I've got with me today the Director of Kentucky Emergency Management, Mr. Eric Gibson. To his right, I've got Mr. Doug Hargris. Doug is our USAR Coordinator for the Commonwealth of Kentucky. And to my left, as you guys all know, I've got Corey Ann Jackson with us as our POLAC for the Kentucky Guard and DMA. Sir, I'll be followed by Director Gibson. We'll entertain any questions you got as we go through the briefing and close it out with any questions.
All right. Well, thank you all for having us before the body today. And it's a very fitting day to talk about Kentucky Urban Search and Rescue. A year ago today, Hurricane Helene was damaging our country and was just another example of how these teams are so valuable to the lives of our citizens across our nation. And this team is being built in that way as well. But today we're here to provide an update on how the funding that was provided and how these teams are being developed and where we're at in the progress report that you all are due on this program. And so I'm very happy to report that there's been a lot of progress made in the first fiscal year of the budget that we were allotted. But I'll start out by just telling you how this team is going to look when it's completely finished, and I'll give you an idea where we are right now on that progress. But the Urban Search and Rescue will be built up like you see there, Kentucky Task Force 1, and that one will be at Bluegrass Station. That team is over there at a location there. And there's going to be 3 70-member teams, and they'll have operational capacity doing 2 12-hour operational periods back-to-back. So there'll be 210 personnel on that team. Task Force 2 is out at Wendell Ford Training Center. There's 3 22-member teams. They'll have 12-hour operational periods, and that'll have a total of 66 personnel on that team at Wendell Ford. So we're regionally located across the state to try to put everybody within a quick response time of our teams. We also are building and have built the Kentucky HART, which is Helicopter Aquatic Rescue Team. That is built up of our National Guard helicopters, the State Police helicopters, and our KYEM USAR program. We have been working through, and that photo that you see there on the left is the most recent iteration of training that was done over water. Using State Police helicopter, KYM sponsored rescuers. That was training that we paid for with the dollars that you all awarded us. And that was the last phase of getting our helicopter aquatic rescue team fully operational. So we needed to get that water piece in, and that's just kind of a completion of that training showing it's done. In addition, the incident support team is kind of that back office side of the operations that helps make sure everything's running properly during an incident, and that is a part of that piece. And then the bottom, I have the Rescue Aid Fund, and that's the $500,000 that was included in the budget for us to administer to our local search and rescue teams as we continue to support them. At the exact same time we're building this statewide team, we're making sure not to leave our local agencies behind. And I want to give you an update on how we've allocated those funds that I know everybody was interested in, how it was impacting their local communities. Next slide, please. So where we're at with this is the warehouse over at Lexington, and you can see the equipment is starting to arrive just in this photo, but we have the building 15A and B reserved for the USAR team, and this is where we're putting our equipment as it comes in. Those vehicles are being lettered and marked with the appropriate seals and decals. But the team is starting to get the equipment in. There's a long order period on a lot of these items, so we've had to work really diligently to get things ordered, delivered, and paid for in that first fiscal year, just because of the buildup for that trailer that you see was, a 10-month order period on that one particular truck over there on the left in that photo. But I just put that picture in there to kind of show you there is actually real goods being purchased with your dollars, the state's dollars, and we're putting those items in inventory, and we're already beginning that part of equipping them, marking them, and having them ready for deployment. So we just kind of included an overall view of that, and just to kind of show you some update. But here's where we are with the overall, the nuts and bolts of it. The staffing structure right now, and as the law was drafted, it said for those full-time personnel, an operations, a logistics, and a planning person, along with the chief's position. And those personnel are on staff through our DMA organization, and they work for us at KYEM. We also have 16 part-time employees that we have there that are doing the day-to-day work on whether it's building that internal office space, could be warehousing, inventorying, breaking in the motors, breaking in the boats, the things that have to be done to make sure this equipment is ready. That's what those 16 part-times do. They're typically firemen or rescuers in other days, and they come in on their days off and spend a day or two a week, so that's why there's so many of them. There's typically about 4 there on a day-to-day basis. But our 2025 budget, we were awarded $8.3 million from the body, and we fully executed that dollar. We have no dollars left from that budget. We met every single dollar to where it was supposed to go, and I think that's an accomplishment just in working through delivery of these very difficult to get items, hard to inventory items, and we fully executed exactly the spend plan that we laid out in the initial presentations from the budget session in 24. So of that, $482,670 was awarded of that $500,000 back to our 29 local search and rescue teams. And the other remaining part is just the management cost for that. That's why it didn't go out to them. The statute in place provides 15% management for us to have staff to administer those dollars properly out to them. So we're doing the tracking of the resources, making sure that we're keeping up with the inventory, and that's the only part of that $500,000 that didn't go out, and that's following the statute that's prescribed. Infrastructure, we've repurposed that warehouse. That was an old World War II era warehouse. It's been upgraded to have electronics, to have an office space in it, to make sure that we have upgrades to be able to do the work that we're doing, adding an overhead door to make sure that these large trucks and trailers can come and go. So we're updating and building that onto state property. So we're using those internal dollars to make sure that we're keeping up, being a good steward of each dollar we have. And we're transforming that mission-ready warehouse to support this operation. And during the disasters that we had back this spring, that warehouse quickly transitioned into a donations management warehouse. So we actually just opened up another door. And then that's where when volunteer organizations across the Commonwealth were bringing in donations, that's where they were going. And those 16 part-time personnel literally transitioned into helping manage those donations to make sure that we were getting that flood relief out. And so that's where that team is just an integral part to KYEM, and the overall purpose of the USAR team is to support victims across the Commonwealth. So we modeled right into exactly what needed to be done. Once the rescuing operations ended, then those folks were very quick to help aid in assisting our citizens with that donations management. So many thanks to them and all their staff for that, the work that went in. Our 2026 budget has $7.8 million in expenditures. In that, we are continuing to do our personnel now. We started getting some equipment in, so we're ready to do the training. We're working through our personnel, and that's where we're at right now. We're hiring people, interviewing people, and that's an ongoing process right now. And then we're continuing to get in this very difficult to get equipment, like our personal protection equipment, all of the things that are needed. And this year we've executed $493,592 to 36 teams, and that's based on their applications following the grant process that's laid out in statute. But of that, we worked very quickly in this new fiscal year to give those agencies more time to execute it locally at their side, and then that way we can make sure that we spend all those dollars. So 493 of the 500's already been allocated. So here's what we're doing to help get things done, and I show some intercooperation between agencies there. You see the transportation cabinet to save money. We brought out the transportation cabinet to help prepare the building site for the training grounds versus contractors. It's on state property. The state equipment was used. 4.5 acres there that we have secured for the city, if you will, to practice these efforts on collapsed structures. Concrete and all those kind of things will be placed there on that site, and that's where we're at now. We're building that destructed city to show like there's been an earthquake or there's been a collapsed building that we need to rescue, and that'll be the training ground for all of our state agencies. And you can see that that simulated disaster town is there, and then the multi-agency preparedness. It's not going to be a closed facility. Other federal and state and local partners can come there and train with us as we continue to use that facility for that. The bottom photos are just showing the training that we're already doing to work with our local departments, to work to build and talk about this program so that it's well bought into by our other agencies. We want to make sure that it is that part that we talked about with you all 2 years ago, that we're reaching those communities. It's not just one agency providing all of our staff for this piece. We have currently, I think my numbers for yesterday's interviews, 137 people have been interviewed. We had a total of 1,100 applications in just a few short days when we opened the period for our hiring. And I thought that was tremendous response, and that is from across the state. Those aren't all from one city whatsoever, or two cities, if you will. Those are members that are people that have showed interest in this team. They believe in what you all are doing. They believe in what we're doing. The leadership of KYEM to build this team and put together that statewide resource that you all, we all so desired, I should say. 1,100 people in just, was it a 20-day advertisement? About 20 days. 1,100 people is considerable interest from our firemen and rescuers across the state. So we're working through that. We've interviewed 137 people already. Next slide. So talk a little bit about some things that we've been doing already. Told you where we were with our money, and that was allocated in our equipment and our building of the team, and as we continue to build our personnel piece in. But I think it's important to talk about what we've been doing in the past year as well. Wasn't just only buying and building and doing things, but we were becoming operational. During each one of these disasters, our USAR coordination part started to work together with these other teams and our local teams. And I think that you all saw better success out of KYEM and across our state as this disaster was unfolding, as we took a position of more of a control of the local teams to direct them to where the flood was happening at. And then we also saw where they were going to be overrun and brought in these teams from Vermont and North Carolina, as you see. So the command and control of search and rescue during the activations is what we've also been doing with our USAR folks. We organize and deployment our local search and rescue teams. And we've already touched over 1,500 citizens in our state with this process. And I think that says a lot about what we're able to do. But 1,500 lives have been impacted by this program already. Saved, evacuated, airlifted, rescued, all kinds of different categories that we capture. But that's touching a lot of people to not be fully operational. In February, we had 22 Swiftwater teams and then urban search and rescue from across the Commonwealth. We also brought in 3 federal teams. That's where you see that Vermont team. And then we EMAC'd in. So EMAC is in the new FEMA language, you're hearing more and more. That's Emergency Management Assistance Compact. And that is Kentucky talking directly to North Carolina, Kentucky talking directly to Indiana, and they share with us and expect us to share with them in their time of need. And that's what we're building that up. That state's paying for that. We paid for them to come here. In April, we deployed 9 Swiftwater teams, and that was what you all saw here in Frankfort, if you all covered some of that. The federal urban search and rescue sent 2 teams in for that one, and then we brought in 3 state teams through that compact agreement. And then in May, we followed down to Somerset and London with our urban search and rescue teams, and we put a heavy manpower to that, and we were able to successfully clear those damaged structures within 12 hours. And that was pretty impressive, I thought. I was really impressed with the time and the swiftness of our first responders across the state. They ran to that call, worked through those homes to try to find anybody that was injured, anybody that had been deceased during that event, and we were able to quickly get that processed. I mean, there's a lot of homes, and you all have seen the photos, and many of you all have visited. To knock through that in 12 hours is pretty significant response by our teams. And I think that overall coordination is what you all expect and what we expect. And we're seeing that come to fruition in these events. So here's our plan. And so there's this Kentucky Heart, the helicopter aquatic rescue team that's made up of the National Guard, State Police, and KYEM, fully operational now. They can take any call, and you've seen the newsreels of the State Police helicopters, and you've seen the newsreels of the National Guard. Though that's operational. We have met all of those, checked all the boxes to be fully operational with that program. Our Kentucky Urban Search and Rescue team members are being the training and rostering our teams. We'll have that done by January. We'll know who's going to be on the team. We're going to start and begin our training in January. And so we've kind of, we have a timeline that we're specifically following to make sure we hit the deadline, which you'll see at the end. But our incident support team will be online by April, hopefully before any flooding or any events that we were to get this year, and then fully deployable by June of 2026. June 30th, July 1st is our goal date. So that would be at the end of the fiscal year. But our timeline is to be fully operational, as we had always talked about. Use these 2 years to get the people, the things, and the training that we need to go out the door by July 1st, 2026. And that is our timeline, and we believe we will definitely hit that, or if not before. Next slide, Corey. So kind of come to the end of the slides just to kind of provide a quick brief on it. I close with this photograph because this is the Tug Fork Hospital, and I know many of you all have seen that hospital. That's there at South Williamson, Tug Valley Regional Hospital, ARH. That's a flood wall. And that flood wall, that actually got a little bit deeper than that during the event in February. The hospital was protected by that flood wall, but as you can see, it was nearly overtopped. That wall was within 13 inches of overtopping that wall, which would have been a full evacuation if it started to flood that hospital if the water come over. So just those things that we're watching and we're seeing those events start to unfold, having real-time situational awareness in the EOC, Emergency Operations Center, about events as they're unfolding, preparing for them before they happen, and responding quickly to when they do. Pre-positioning assets across the state is what you saw in the spring, and that's all those Swiftwater teams and urban search and rescue teams were all on the urban ESF 9 function, which incorporates many of your local teams along with the teams that we're building here. So that's just a photo for reference. But thank you all for allowing me to present, and I'm happy to take any questions. I'm very passionate about what we're doing, and I'll talk about it as long as you'll let me. So thank you all.
Thank you for your presentation, and I want to say that we're very proud that you've been able to impact and save 1,500 lives, and it goes beyond just those that you saved. You impacted those families and their relatives and their friends and their communities that those people live in, and so we are very grateful, and it has a huge ripple effect, and I'm very proud of the work that you've put together so far. And we look forward to this continued work as we continue to grow this program. At this time, we do have some folks that have some questions, and I'll call on Senator Berg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the presentation. When you get finalized, in July of 2026, what do you see as your response time statewide?
Yes.
What are we talking about?
On events that we can see coming, I think that changes the scenario. Working with the National Weather Service, having them tell us when we think we're going to have these large rain events. We're already calling and rostering these teams now, and that's what we'll continue to do. We'll have those teams already. If we know that it's going to flood, say in eastern Kentucky, we will, and we have been, moving teams into that area in advance of the rain so that they're more quickly able to assist our citizens. The events like you may be thinking about, like a collapsed building, there's been something that happens. Those are only response times. And so that would be a longer response time than being there before it happened. But our goal is to have those two centers where we have the one in Wendell Ford and the one at Bluegrass Station. That's about 125 miles from every citizen in the Commonwealth. We have one of the teams. So go ahead. I'm sorry, ma'am. Yeah. Yeah, about 2 hours, but we would need to call in our staff. But we keep that as this team starts to develop. There'll be an alert system that's built into our network, that the software that we're buying, and we'll kind of have a ready team always on alert to know when they're needed to be out. But it would be more than just that local first responder. We still are only going to, that local first responder is that immediate support for those individuals, and then we're their backup. We're coming in to support them when they're overwhelmed or overrun, or the situation is more technical, if you will, than their local expertise may have.
So you're going to tell me probably most scenarios you could be at the site within 6 hours?
Yes, I would say. Yes, ma'am. So one of the things about it is on when we know that storm's coming, we're going to space our teams across the state, right? So we're going to reduce our time down to an hour or so, because those guys will be in the trucks waiting for the big storms that are coming through. For a disaster like Martin County, we could have teams rostered and en route within 2 hours and plus drive time. So our goal is always to be, if it's a unplanned event, within the warehouse within 2 hours of notification, and then plus drive time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Representative Bratcher.
Impressive presentation, and appreciate all you've done and spending the money and being very tight with it as you spend it. I did have a question for you on, rescue dogs and handlers can cover a lot more ground and a lot more efficiently than a person without a dog. So do you have any plans on that area?
Yes, sir.
Or exploring that area?
Absolutely. There's a rescue, a canine element to the task force, and that will be staffed and built with the canine element. The FEMA Type 1 teams have canine assets included in those. So in that 210 personnel, there will be an element of canine and canine handlers as well, sir.
Thank you.
Senator Boswell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, well, nobody here on this panel would question that we've had some unprecedented amount of disasters in our state. So we know that. But I am concerned as we go in the future to make sure that we don't have a little overkill here. And if I'm being honest. So the budget that you recommend for this year is $7.8 million. That's just for the urban search and rescue, correct?
Yes, sir.
And so that doesn't count. Each county in our state has emergency management services, and then and on top of that, we also have the KMA. Can you give me an idea of what the total budget is for the Kentucky Management Services as a whole, and then also the budget costs for each county? You understand, what are we spending total statewide for emergency services? Can we give me a rough idea?
That would be a tough one I would rather do the research. Yeah, there'd be a lot of different, so a lot of those funding mechanisms are by different methods. Local counties fund that local emergency manager, and then we do match through a federal grant for them, so it's not general fund dollars. But, without knowing each of those 120 salaries, those county employees, I wouldn't know. This program here, and KYEM, we offset many of our costs, and a lot of our money flows through as federal match also, or federal dollars that we're just using state funds to match. I'm sorry that I'm not able to give you a more accurate answer off the fly, but I would be glad to get back to you with any or more detailed information specifically, sir.
One of my concerns is when you mentioned federal matching, some of that stuff could go away one day. I just want to make sure that we don't all of a sudden have a huge amount of money that we're going to have to pour into this. If we continue to have disasters like we've had, we're going to be very happy that we're doing what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But if we don't, then I'm going to be concerned about how much money we're spending. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I would say on that point that as we prepare ourselves for the unknown, it is a wise investment to take the steps necessary to ensure that we have folks trained. And one of the things that you mentioned earlier that I'd like to point out is very appreciative of the partnerships that your training facilities are not just for the urban rescue team. They go to training our locals as well, and responders, those that are on scene first. And these investments into those training facilities go way beyond just this unit here. It really impacts our regions and our locals all the way down to those that are working diligently to respond in a timely manner. So that cost to me, is a cost that goes beyond sometimes what we see at first glance. And so, and then FEMA and federal funding is all a part of this as we get reimbursements for those larger disasters. So, but it is important that we do keep up, and I'm very I'm glad for your detailed expense report on where the money is going and how it is being used. So I want to thank you for that, and just point those things out that sometimes what many of us don't realize is it goes way beyond just the unit that's sitting before us today. And lastly, I will ask Representative Hart, you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Not a question, more of a comment. I just, I wanted to just publicly commend these gentlemen sitting in front of you right now to move as fast and to take the dollars that we appropriated. They have the effectiveness, the efficiency that they've been able to accomplish just in this short time since we passed this and put this together. It's amazing to build the resources that we're going to have online, and I'm very confident they'll have it online before July 2026 at the rate they're moving. But they've worked really hard up at EM, and these gentlemen in front of you that are at the tip of the spear. We're building a resource that is going to be as equal or far superior than some of our surrounding states, and we should be very proud. And when you talk about appropriating money and stuff for stuff like this is the type of tool that we desperately need when we have an emergency, but you cannot build it overnight. You've got to take the time, you got to take the planning, you've got to spend the money appropriately. But these gentlemen have done this, the people that work with them and work for them, it's been a major team effort, and I wanted to publicly commend you. Like you guys, I'm very passionate with this for obvious reasons, but y'all have done an excellent job, and let's keep moving forward with it.
Thank you, sir.
And finally, didn't mean to overlook Representative Blanton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Brief comment and then a question.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Gentlemen, thank you, and lady, for being here in your presentation today. Looks like things are moving along very swiftly and very well. When we get on the comment of funding, I can't see it like this. I pay for house insurance, auto insurance all the time. Hope I never have to use it, right? Same scenario here. We got to fund it and have it, but lives are at stake, and it's good when we have it. So I'm glad, and I heard things from your presentation that brought me much comfort in knowing that you guys are very wise in how you're spending the money and you're not just wasting it. And I'll take a perfect example. You use the transportation cabinet to come in and do excavating work because they have the equipment. They're already a state-funded agency. Rather than hiring a contractor to come in and do it, that saves the state money. This shows how well that you are executing your funding, how you're utilizing it. I think some other agencies could maybe learn some lessons from what you all have done. So with that, I'm appreciative. My question is this, and actually I planned on talking with Chief May about this, and I probably still will because he and I have had this conversation. But we're dealing with rescue squads here. And I'm thinking of these individuals that are out here, and let's face it, when they're going out on these situations, they're putting themselves in harm's way. They're doing very risky operations, very dangerous operations. Now, I know that firemen and I know that law enforcement, we have line of duty death benefits, that if something happened, God forbid, they lose their life, there is some compensation to help the family through that situation. Does our rescue personnel in the Commonwealth qualify for that type of funding for their families if they lose their life in the line of duty?
Not at this time, sir, they do not.
Follow up? And why is that?
It is my understanding it will be presented this session before this body to get that into statute, but at this time it is not. Why? I don't know. You'd have to ask our predecessors, sir. It's never, to my knowledge, I don't know that it's ever become. It came before the body to put it in statute. but as I understand it, it is being presented this time. And I would tell you that without looking at the full details of it, as it's presented, we would support it.
Thank you, and I think it's very important that we do include them because they are doing a very dangerous job when they go out here and they're doing these search and these rescue situations. And I'm sure we will hear from Chief May. Those folks, I don't want to steal their thunder, but they do an outstanding job down there in the Red River Gorge area, and those folks are risking their life and limb every time they go out. And if something happens to them, their family's got to pick up, move on the best way they can. And so I definitely think we need to address it. I hope we never have to use it, but it needs to be an option there for them, God forbid, if something were to happen. So.
Absolutely. Sir, I would tell you, and to this body, I would add, sir, that there's been a lot of discussion about the funding, and if you looked at that $16 million, that was stand-up cost. That's not sustainment cost. Sustainment cost, as the budget is going in for 25, 26, and 26, 27, 28 now, is significantly less than stand-up cost.
Yes, sir.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. All right. Thank you all very much, folks. At this time, we also have with us two of the Wolfe County Search and Rescue with us today, Chief May and Mr. Osborne. If you'll now come forward, introduce yourselves for the record, and you may proceed with your presentation. Make sure
Good morning.
your green light's turned on. There you are. Thank you for your services, gentlemen, and we're glad to have you with us today.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to come down and speak with the committee. My name is John May. I'm chief of the Wolfe County Search and Rescue Team located in Wolfe County. I've been on the team for about 23 years, chief of the team for about 15 years.
Good morning. My name's Kevin Osborne. I'm the public information officer for the team, and it's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, we're going to start out with a 3-minute video. I think everybody likes videos. This video is actually, because we are talking about funding in this presentation, this video was sent in to Land Rover back in 2021, and it allowed us to win a nationwide contest where we won basically a $90,000 Defender that we put into use in Wolfe County. So hopefully, and it gives a really good, kind of reflection of what we do day to day.
Nestled in the hills of eastern Kentucky, the Red River Gorge is a beautiful yet dangerously rugged landscape with an abundance of tall cliffs, waterfalls, and natural arches. It's no secret why it's one of the most popular destinations for adventure seekers in this region of the United States. The thousands of miles of sandstone cliffs draw over 1 million hikers and climbers during a single year. And the numerous four-wheel drive roads serve as a magnet for the off-road and overland communities. But along with all this opportunity for adventure comes great risk and a great need for a capable, dependable search and rescue team. The Wolfe County Search and Rescue Team is an all-volunteer group that serves Kentucky's Red River Gorge region 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with over 400 square miles in our service area. Our team responds to the urgent needs of the community by conducting over 60 wilderness rescue missions a year, by far the heaviest rescue mission load in the state. Missions can range from finding lost hikers to evacuating injured climbers, even conducting high-angle rope rescue operations hundreds of feet above solid ground. During the historic floods of 2021, our team was called upon to work tirelessly, rescuing those trapped by high waters in not just our community, but in surrounding counties as well.
Being a lifelong resident of Wolfe County, I'm well aware of the economic challenges that this area has faced for generations. Although Wolfe County Search and Rescue is an all-volunteer organization, it's very expensive to run and operate. Incredibly, we accomplish our mission operating entirely on grants and donations. We do not charge those we rescue, and we do not receive an annual budget from the communities we serve, nor the state of Kentucky.
It doesn't matter if it's on the face of a cliff, in the middle of a raging flood or miles off-road. We must be able to quickly and reliably get there because lives depend on it. The Wolfe County Search and Rescue Team needs a vehicle capable of tackling the rough terrain we cover so we can get help to those who need it as fast as possible. Currently, we are using a 20-year-old vehicle on its last legs to access many of the remote areas and rugged land where rescue missions are frequent. A new Land Rover Defender would elevate our ability to reliably respond to emergencies off the beaten path and allow the Wolfe County Search and Rescue Team to do what we do best, going where others can't and saving lives. The Wolfe County Search and Rescue Team, so that others may live.
So just a little bit about how our team kind of got going. Back in many years ago, Don Figg was kind of the lead rescue person in the Red River Gorge area. He was a park ranger, handled most of the rescues, him and some other volunteers. And then in early 2001, 2002, Don Figg was going to be retiring. And that's when the federal government made the decision to turn over rescues within the Daniel Boone National Forest to the local teams. And they brought in some people that started kind of getting our team trained up and, kind of on our way. And really, we've just kind of progressed since that time. So in 2002, we had kind of officially took over all rescues in the Gorge area. Like we said, we're based in Campton, Kentucky. We've been in operation for about 23 years. We have affiliation agreements, not only with Wolfe County, but also Menifee. Menifee doesn't have a local rescue team. That's kind of some of the challenges some of these small communities face. It's a matter of getting, people that can give up their time and volunteer, and the county being able to fund their efforts. So we have an affiliation agreement with Menifee, Breathitt County, and looking right now about Morgan County. They've approached us about taking over their county as well. So at the end of the day, we may be more of a regional team, kind of serving 4 counties in eastern Kentucky. The team's made up of currently 55 unpaid volunteers. We do have a waiting list. Our team is, I'd say, a little unique in that regard. Some teams have trouble recruiting, I think, because of what we do and where we do it. We have people that really want to join and be part of the Wolfe County Search and Rescue. What makes up our team? We've got firefighters, EMTs. That's Kelly, Dr. Schaefer, right there going over a cliff. She's a doctor. Retired college teachers, factory employees. We've got a professional photographer, government employees, retirees, nurses, rock climbers, which are great because a lot of what we do, we're hanging off cliffs and pretty rough terrain, and they're super fit. So we'll take any rock climber that wants to join up with us. So quite a mixed bag of people that make up our team. We average between 60 and 80 rescues. I checked this week. We're sitting at 40 right now, so we're kind of tracking about that same number. Back during COVID, when things kind of got locked down and everybody wanted to become an adventure seeker, we got up to nearly 90 rescues one year and 80 another. So it was super busy for us. I mean, that's when you take a volunteer team and you're doing 2 to 3 rescues a week. That's a pretty heavy load to manage. That's why you need 50 to 60 people to be able to go out and do it. We all work day jobs for the most part, so you got to take off work and go take care of business out there when something happens. We've rescued over 1,600 people. This is a pretty good track record for us. Anybody that was alive when we got to them remained alive, at least until we got them out to definitive care. We really take a lot of pride in that. Unfortunately, sometimes people were deceased when we got to them, but if they were alive when we got there, they were alive when we handed them over to EMS. Furry friends, dogs always get a lot of attention. We're really strong on social media. It helps us with fundraising, but anytime we do a dog rescue, it's kind of weird. It gets more likes and shares than a person in some cases. So, but the dog on the left was during the search on Troublesome Creek. We were looking for Miss Baker that was never found, unfortunately. A dog actually and the dog owner got in trouble on the far side of the creek, and we had to rescue the dog. And the one on the right was actually bitten by a copperhead out in the gorge area and was unable to walk, so we were carrying that dog out. So we don't discriminate, dogs, humans, whatever. Even a small calf at one time that fell over a cliff. Types of operations we do, obviously cliff rescues. This is one we had just a few weeks ago. A gentleman in Wolfe County fell over a cliff, about an 80-foot cliff, survived, and that's actually him packaged up in the Stokes basket. One of our paramedics is working on him right there and getting ready to bring him back up the cliff. This is top side of that same rescue team up there. That area did not look what it looks like right there. It was basically overgrown with rhododendron, but we do what we call grooming. So we took a bunch of saws and we just cleared a path so we could run a rope operations in there. And then, of course, we're handing him over to EMS on the top side once we got him out. As we heard about earlier, Eastern Kentucky has had some significant flooding, both in 21 and 22. You hear of a 100-year flood and you think, my goodness, hopefully you don't have another one of those. And the next year you have a 1,000-year flood. And I don't know how they do the record keeping, but I believe it. We were on Troublesome Creek that morning. Doug back here is in a blue suit now, but he was in a different blue suit that day because Lakes and Fire showed up to help us. We got that call, around 4:30 in the morning from Breathitt County. Had no idea what was going on. The water wasn't up in Wolfe County, but we got our team together, started heading there about daylight. We could see the magnitude of what we were facing. Troublesome Creek is normally about 2 to 3 feet deep, and that day it was 36 feet deep and just like nothing I'd ever seen. And I tell people all the time it was really terrifying up in there trying to get people out, and some people didn't survive it. But over 100 people did survive between us, Lakes and Fire, Fish and Wildlife, and the National Guard flying overhead. Pulled over 100 people off that river that day. And for sure, many, many more lives would have been lost if it wasn't for the efforts of, the search and rescue teams I just mentioned. So really an unbelievable day. I hope we never see it again, but unfortunately, we probably will. We do wilderness searches. This one really made world news. I guess it was last year. Mr. Hearn was lost in the Red River Gorge for 14 days. To be perfectly honest, I didn't think there was any chance we were finding this man alive. It just kind of goes beyond the odds to live that long out there without anything. But on the 14th day, we actually located him alive underneath a rock shelter. Seriously ill, obviously, to that point. But that's when we brought in KSP and the work we've been doing with them on hoist operations. They came in and actually flew him out of that very remote area, and he's alive and well today. So really defied any kind of odds you could ever think of about somebody surviving 14 days without food or water. Well, actually, he had, I think, 3 bottles of water and 2 cans of beer and some trail mix for 14 days. But he said after day 2, his mouth was so dry he couldn't eat the trail mix anymore. So we do diving, water recoveries essentially. This is a fairly new discipline for our team, but it's always been kind of my motto. If we come across something that we can't, mitigate on our own, we learn how to do it. That's how we became Swiftwater certified. We had, a young girl that was ran over by a vehicle on the opposite side of a flooded river. We did some things really that was kind of scary to get her out, and I said I'd never do that again. So we went and got the training. We've had a few drownings in our area, and then we'd have to call in other resources to come in and try to do that recovery. And I said, well, let's just get some divers. I'm a master diver myself. Let's get some people trained up, and we'll get that skill set and the equipment, and do the funding, through the state and our own fundraising. We were able to outfit a dive team. So we cover a couple of different lakes, including Cave Run, Wolf Lake, and Mill Creek now. So. We're here to talk a little bit about funding, so I thought it'd kind of be a good idea to, put some cost so you can see the kind of expenditures we have. This is just a small sample of some of the equipment that we have to get. That rescue Stokes basket and wheel, that's about $4,700. We have 2 of those. We have rescues that occur, at the same time, so we may be on one rescue and get a second call, so we have to have the equipment to handle 2 rescues at once. So you can multiply that number by 2. 11 millimeter static rope. It's $1.09 per foot. We have 1,200 feet because we outfit 2 response vehicles. Like just the rope alone is $1,300, and depending on how busy we are that year, that rope may last a year. It may last 2 to 3, but it certainly has a shelf life. And we use that rope also to train with day to day, and also teach technical rope rescue classes for Kentucky Emergency Management. So we do burn through that type of equipment. Stokes basket will last. That's not something you have to replace that often, but there are some items that are more perishable. Class 3 rescue harnesses, $450 each. We carry 15 of those. That's $6,700. Once again, that's every 3 to 5 years. If they make it that long, they have to be replaced. 15 sounds like a lot, but like I said earlier, we teach a rescue class. So when those students come in to learn how to do technical rope rescue, we have to put them all in a harness. And then during a real significant rope operation in the gorge, I mean, we may have 10 to 12 people in harnesses, either setting up, high angle systems on the edge of a cliff or going over the cliff to try to make access to the subject. We have an MR rescue boat, 14 foot with motor. It's $10,210. We actually have basically 3 boats now, 2 that are kind of like the Zodiac style, 40 horsepower motors, and also a John boat that we use for side scan sonar and body recoveries in lakes. We just got the mobile command trailer. As we heard earlier, some of those state SAR funds that are, distributed amongst the state, we use some of that funds to get that command trailer. So like when we had the 14-day search going on, if Powell County wasn't able to bring up their small trailer, we really didn't have anything to put our incident command in, out in basically the wilderness area. So now we have this command trailer, and we actually just finished outfitting it this week with radios, TVs for our mapping, those kind of things. So we'll be able to take this in for those searches that are going more than just a day or so. We can bring it in, have a place to get out of the weather and do our planning ops in the field. It also has Starlink capability, so we can have cell phone service, which normally we don't in the gorge. Comms and whether it's radios or cell phones don't work very well out there. In response vehicles, when I took over as chief of the team, we basically had that Jeep that you saw in that video. Since that time, with our own fundraising efforts, some USDA grants, funding from the state, and just donations, we now have about $270,000 worth of vehicles. We have our big, heavy response vehicle. We call it SAR-1. You can see the picture of the Land Rover that we won. It's a $90,000 vehicle, and then we have the little UTV side-by-side that we use to access some of the more remote locations and off-road trails that are popular in the area. These jackets that we're wearing, it seems crazy. This jacket's around $600. We can get them on a pro deal, get them a little cheaper, but it goes back to having your team outfitted so they can be safe and protected when they're out, all day, all night in the winter. These are just like a shell jacket. They hold up the bars, the cliff lines, when you're abrasive material, and they're also, this particular one through Arc'teryx, you can get it again. So like a lot of jackets, if you order it this year, next year you can't get that same jacket. These, because it is a Pro Series jacket, you can always go back and get it. So they realize that, and they charge you a little more for it. But you can imagine 55 people trying to outfit them with this type of jacket. It's very expensive. We don't give everybody this jacket. You have to earn it. So it takes many years to earn one of these jackets, like so many rescues, so many trainings, and so long on the team. And if you put all that work in, then you might get a jacket, if we got jackets available and money to purchase. So. Some challenges we face. Funding has been and continues to be a challenge. Wolfe County is one of the poorest counties in the state, and probably one of the poorest in the country. But yet we see a heavy influx of tourism into the area, which results into a lot of SAR missions for us. The funding we get from the county is basically gas money for our vehicle. And then the workers' comp insurance through the state. The rest of it's kind of on us. So, whatever we have to do, as far as fundraising goes, to outfit the team with grants and what have you. We talked about this license plate a little bit here. We got a little creative, kind of came up with this idea back in 2020. Some of you may have seen it, some of you may not. I hope you've seen it, and maybe it's even on your vehicle. But we came up with an idea to create a license plate for the Red River Gorge, since it is such a popular tourist destination. And Kevin here is actually an artist, and when he joined the team, I kind of commissioned him to come up with some artwork that we could go after this license plate with. And last year, we actually got it all approved. It took about a year going through that process to get it approved. Now, anybody in the state of Kentucky can get that license plate and put it on their vehicle, and every one of those that's sold or issued, $10 comes to our team. That's a huge deal for us. I mean, we had around 1,200, I think, that were issued within about 6 months. The folks and at the license plate said that was one of the fastest growing plates that they'd had in recent years. So we're hopeful that grows even more. If we can get 3,000 or 4,000 of those plates out there every year, I mean, that takes really care of a lot of our basic needs. So we're trying to be creative in how we keep our team going. So if you don't have that plate, feel free to go out and pick you one up. Goes to a good cause. Challenge we face, our team is currently homeless. I hate to say that. We thought we had a We had about a $5 million grant that we've been working on for years. With the change of administration at the federal level, that kind of got squashed. So we were really disappointed last year. We thought we were going to have a home, and then it just didn't happen. Luckily, the local fire department has given us a bay that we put basically all of our vehicles in, minus the boats. The boats are stored in basically a pole barn that's in a floodplain. That's not a conditioned airspace, so it's not great or ideal to keep things in, but it's all we have. So that's a big project we're going to try to figure out, if the license plate really takes off. Obviously we're not going to raise $5 million with that license plate, but trying to get a place that we can meet at, call home, put all our equipment in, out of the weather, conduct our trainings, for people from across the state there, would be super helpful to us. So that's a big project, and one of the last ones before I, sell off into the retirement realm that I would like to get done. So we're going to work hard on that. Retention and recruiting of SAR members can be a challenge. Like I mentioned earlier, it's not a huge problem for us, but a lot of SAR teams do face that. They're not as active. So, it's hard to keep people engaged if you're not doing a lot of rescues. We do a lot of rescues, so, kind of contributes to people sticking around. I also think it's important for people to take pride in their team that they're on, and that even goes back to just how you look when you show up on a rescue. I think you need to look professional. If you look professional, people take pride in that, and they want to be a part of that team. So we really, as we're sitting here today, that's kind of how we go out. I mean, we try to look the part, whether it's on a rescue or just, presenting some information to people. As Mr. Blanton talked about earlier, lack of death benefits for SAR members really needs to be addressed. Other first responders have this coverage. We do not. I'll share a real life story with you. It's not one of my finer moments, but in 2019, on July 4th at about 9 p.m., I nearly lost my life on a rescue. We were doing rappelling over Chimney Top Rock. For some of those that you may have been there, it's about a 200-foot tall cliff. Due to a lot of small issues, I had a rappelling incident that occurred, and I fell about 150 feet. Serious injuries, TBI, broken back in 4 places, burned my hands. Should have killed me, just by the grace of God that I survived that, but it can happen. As we talked about earlier, the area that we serve is extremely rugged, extremely dangerous. And every time we go out, we're looking at those kind of challenges. And, if I hadn't survived that, then basically my wife, wouldn't have had anything to gotten her through that really difficult period. So I think if, the state here really should take a look at that and look at what these rescue teams do out there to save people and try to get that put in place if you can. And hopefully I stayed under my 20 minutes, but I know there'll be some questions.
Well, we have several questions. First, I want to thank you for your service and thank you for your time here today. Just between the last presentation and this presentation alone, folks, there's over 3,000 lives in Kentucky that have been impacted. And one of our, if not our top goal here as legislators, I believe, is public protection. And the work that you all have done is commendable, and we want to say thank you for that. The work that you do in one of our largest tourist attractions is paramount to continue to have tourism dollars come into the Commonwealth. That place is visited by so many and enjoyed by so many. We're blessed to have your crew there to assist us in times of need. I'm very familiar with Chimney Top and Half Moon. I've rappelled that several times, and I continue to do so. And I visit Red River Gorge quite often, and that is one of the favorite spots for folks like myself and that enjoy rappelling on occasions. And did it much more in my younger days than I do now, but I am very familiar with that point, and that is it's a scary drop right there.
Oh yeah. So
I'm glad you survived it and you're
Thank
with
you.
us today. With that said, I want to call on Senator Smith.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thanks for calling on me. And I wanted to note, I apologize for being late, but there was a wreck, which you've probably been following there in Wolfe County with a Sprinter van turned over and the road was shut down. So you guys have quite a bit to deal with. But I want to publicly thank you for working with us during the flood. We were there on a lot of occasions. We saw you guys doing the swift boat rescue. And on Miss Baker, as you all know, I mean, that was an impossible situation, still is. Her son's a good friend of mine. And as you all know, he's still not given up looking for, at least some sort of remains. So bless him. I think that search will go on. But I remember seeing you all there when we were up and brought the excavator in. But very sad stuff that we went through. The gorge is a conundrum. It's beautiful, but it's very dangerous. We've had people that have gone off to the roll of toilet paper and fell off the cliff, and then the other one that had the burning log, I think he might have lost his life. But and then the young man that was always at Miguel's, which is one of my hangout spots there, who had the rope fail on him. And so every time you go over the edge of that, that grit and stuff can get in there. But that was such a random act to have that young man killed because of rope failure. But we do appreciate you all going in there. And I have a question with as far as funding. Through the county, grant writers have really been remarkable for us in Eastern Kentucky. It's some of our saving grace in these tight spot areas. Have you all received or applied for any grants that would help you assist in purchasing the vehicles or the building, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, great question. First of all, we do submit yearly to the state SAR grant that they talked about earlier. That's been really instrumental, in us being able to get, some of the equipment that we need year to year. It's around 500,000. It should probably be more, certainly not less. That's spread across the state. So we have to submit basically an application for those funds, and we do that every year. We've also submitted grants through the USDA. That's how we purchased that large response vehicle that we have. But going beyond the USDA and the state SAR grant, we haven't really submitted. We've done a few, like there was a, forget the guy's name now, but he was in the, what was the movie? Anyway, he was a movie star, and he has a foundation, and he does a lot of things with, search and rescue teams, believe it or not. So we've, submitted a time or two for that, but haven't gotten it yet. So, but anytime we hear something that we think we can qualify for, we try to send out for it.
Yeah, and just to follow up, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I know we've seen a lot of development. BMW's looking at a place in Owsley County. I think they've made an investment, and Eric Hubbard's done a lot of work with this. But I know Can-Am and Kawasaki and Honda, these groups with the Defender and the Ridge, we've seen them actually donate equipment for it. I know that's some of the new modern equipment is almost like a truck, but have you all approached or been approached by any of those to let you either test or make a donation to you?
We haven't yet. No, sir.
It'd be great if we could.
Yeah.
We may work on some of that for you. But
That would
I
be
just
great.
wanted to thank you for the efforts that you did, and all the way back to the flood. That was it was a nightmare.
It was.
And the stuff you'd find in those floats and stuff that sticks with you for the rest of your life. But this last comment, did you get your certification through Captain Nemo by any chance?
I did. Initially, yes.
I think
Yeah.
I remember you over there. But
Yeah,
anyway,
sure
thank you
did.
to have
Yeah.
you with us, Chief.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Thanks.
All right, we have several other questions, so we want to just be mindful of our time. We still have one more presentation. So Representative McCool.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being here today, John. I've known John for quite a few years now, and I've always told everybody if I go there hiking, I've got his number for speed dial on my phone. So appreciate your service. And also, you mentioned about equipment and so forth. The reason that you had an accident was because of your equipment failure. So I remember that day well, and you're very blessed to be here, and we're very blessed to have you here. So I'm glad that it worked out. Took a little while. Two quick questions. One, you may not, we're expanding with ATV trails, those type of things. Is there a plan in place on how we can service those? And two, the one I'm really concerned about is communications. When you call 911, I'm not so sure that it goes regionally. I think sometimes it goes even out of state. By the time it gets back, time is essential. So if you could talk about anything about communication, how we could improve that as well.
Sure. Yeah, two great questions. The off-road community is definitely growing in that area. There's an off-road park called Hollerwood. There was actually a fatality there last year, I believe. That's not in Wolfe County. It's kind of in between Powell and Lee County. But they do have our number there. So if there's incidents, they will call one of the local search and rescue teams, and we'll take our UTV in there to access them. We have what's called a Stokes basket hauler that attaches to our UTV, so we can, drive in for several miles, load them into that Stokes basket hauler, and then, drive them back out. So, yeah, it's something we definitely kind of plan for, and we train over there from time to time because there's some big cliffs in that area as well. So, definitely on our thought process and training going forward. Communications, terrible comes to mind. It just depends on where you are in the gorge. As far as us being able to communicate, I mean, there's, it's in a national forest, so, cell towers aren't in there, radio towers aren't in there so much. It's kind of on the outskirts. You really have to try to find a good spot where you can get out. And that's really where Starlink's going to kind of help us, at least at the vehicle. We can get a call back to dispatch. But in regards to 911, I would say the one uptick that we've been seeing is people using the SOS messenger feature on the Apple devices. I think the Androids are coming out with it too. They work off satellite, so if somebody gets in trouble, they're kind of replacing like the Garmin InReaches for those people that have used, hiking aids, over the years. But we've had 2 calls in the past month.
About a week ago.
Yeah, about a week ago. So people are starting to use that technology, which could be good and bad. I mean, sometimes these folks, in my mind, aren't really lost, or they just don't really know where they are. They're on a trail somewhere. If they just keep going, they might come out. But if they've got access to that, it might make our jobs a little tougher. We may get more calls, but at least we can communicate with them at that point and maybe just walk them out remotely. But I did reach out to the state police this past week. There's a new tower in the area next to Coomer Ridge Campground, just seeing if there might be the possibility to put like a repeater or something on there for us, so it would help our communication in the gorge. But sometimes it seems like it goes back to smoke signals out there. I mean, you just do the best you can and try to get the word out.
Thank you.
And thank you for your support over the years. We appreciate it.
Representative Blanton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Brief comment and question. I'll be quick. Chief May, Mr. Osborne, thank you for being here. Thank you for such an outstanding group rescue team that you all have. I live 45 minutes from there. Unfortunately, I see on the news all too often rescues that you all have to make there. I don't think that people who doesn't visit the park nor live close by truly get the full picture of just how important you all are and the type of rescues you all do. I would venture many people on this committee and maybe watching at home would be shocked to know how many, not in-state only, but out-of-state people that we have come to Natural Bridge for nothing more than to rock climb. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's not my thing. I'm not climbing that rock. Yeah. But, I mean, literally last summer I was in Asheville talking to an Uber driver, and we got to talk about Miguel's. He's like, everybody knows Miguel's, mm-hmm. right? And I'm like, why do you come to the gorge? He said, we come up there all the time to rock climb. Mm-hmm. And if you go to Miguel's especially, you'll see license plates from all over this country. So that park is bringing in probably as many out-of-state people, maybe more than any other state park we have mm-hmm. for that. And so your all's work is invaluable. I feel like we as a state ought to support you in what you're doing because it's a big component of our tourism, right? The tourism and then the ability to have first responders when something does go awry. Mm-hmm. And so I'm fully supportive. And my question goes back to the question, and we now have the answer, is that our rescue folks, you all don't have access to line of duty death benefits. I would point out all of the rescue teams in my region are volunteer rescue teams. Mm-hmm. And so the least we could do, if they're out there doing these things and something, God forbid again, were to happen, then we ought to at least have some type of compensation to help that family through that trying time. Mm-hmm. So I'm fully supportive of you guys being included in that. And I'm fully supportive of us trying to help you all get you to where you're not homeless anymore. I would be for that. I think with all the work you do, I think that we should step up and do our part to help you all because you serve such a vast number of people throughout the state and out of state there in your little area. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Representative Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief May, Mr. Osborne, thank y'all for being here with us today and all the things that y'all do out there. One of the first things you mentioned in the presentation today, you've never charged for rescue. You never charged to bring someone out. That makes sense to me. I never would have thought about charging for it, and it's admirable and it's honorable. But on a family vacation up to Sleeping Bear Sand Dunes up in Michigan, you become very clear by the signage that if you get in trouble, we will rescue you, and also you will pay for it. Is there have you all given thought to some type of system of payment for your rescue services that would help get get some of these things paid for that y'all clearly need and deserve to have?
Yeah, great question. Sorry you had to pay for something up there, but yeah, it's actually in KRS that we're not allowed to charge. So, it would take some legislation to fix that. But I think the thought process in not charging is that it pushes people, or if you do charge, it pushes people too long before they call for help. Some teams out west have kind of done some studies on that, and they found that if somebody knows they're going to get penalized for calling 911, that they will wait too long, and the outcome may be negative. I think there's exceptions to be made for that. Sometimes people do some really silly things that put people at risk, and if you're doing something that's you shouldn't be doing, better than to do that, then yeah, maybe the penalty would be in order for that. We have looked at some ideas like with the Forest Service, like either on parking tickets that they write or overnight parking passes. Could some of those funds actually be utilized for the local rescue teams that provide the coverage for that? There's really never been any movement on that. I think the mindset was that parking tickets, they would feel it would incentivize law enforcement to write more tickets, so they knew the money was coming to the local teams, and they didn't want to kind of get some bad press over that, and maybe some of that money goes to another cause, which I think was a really good cause from my understanding. But to me, an overnight parking pass, if somebody has to pay $5 for that, 50 cents of that could go to a local rescue squad to be money well spent. So maybe something that could happen down the road. I don't think most people would care paying, if they knew a little bit of that money was going for a free service, if they needed it, would have a major issue with it.
If I could add, we are trying to do more public education. If people would go prepared to the gorge, know where they're going, take the essentials with them, stay away from cliff edges, bring battery backup power and those kinds of things, it would really help alleviate a lot of the problems that we encounter. So we're trying to be a little more proactive with press releases and public education. We have a lot of people on our follow us on our Facebook page. So that's an opportunity for us to support our mission to keep the public safe.
No, thank you all. It sounds like you've got some good ideas, and some education will also go a long way toward that.
Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Representative Tackett-Lafferty.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I will keep my comments brief, but I do want to say thank you very much for all the lives that you have saved, because aside from the volume of work that you do at the gorge and you do during natural disasters such as the flooding in eastern Kentucky, not too many years ago, there was a young child in my district that somewhat touched my district, and I noticed that your company, you all came to the rescue and joined other first responders, and that child by the end of the week was found in the mountains, which, like I said, just those stories of lives that you have changed and affected. And I think that I want to chairs today for allowing you to come today and let folks know that the type of work that our rescuers do on a volunteer basis. In my district alone, I have over 20 volunteer firefighters, fire departments, and rescue squads, and only 2 paid. So a lot of our services throughout eastern Kentucky are on a volunteer basis, and they need support and incentives. And I want to thank you for being here today to show what great work you do. And I hope that this kind of spreads the word as to what we need to do in order to incentivize more retention and retainment in your community. And want you to know that you have all my support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Boswell.
Yes, thank you. My question is a much broader question. Clearly, you guys have made an argument for the need. How much does it cost to access the Red River Gorge? I know it's a huge piece of property. It encompasses multiple counties. Clearly, you couldn't have it like an entrance where you pay to get in. But at the same time, if I go somewhere for a day of rappelling, if I go somewhere for a day of camping, if I go fishing to a pier in Florida, I pay a pier permit. Is there not a cost to access the Red River Gorge? And maybe that's something there should be. Now, clearly, you couldn't have a one entrance where people pay, but you could have some type of a permit that you buy on the internet. If it was only $3 or $4 for a family, that would help pay for this. So That wouldn't be popular, but I think that's something that ought to be considered. Thank you.
Yeah. The only fee you would have to pay is an overnight, basically parking pass. So it's 1 night, 3 night, 5 night. You can buy a yearly pass, but other than that, I think people see it as public lands, and they should have access to those public lands without having to pay a fee. So I think you would encounter some pushback. It would kind of make it like some of the more national park systems do that, obviously. I mean, and there has been some discussion about it, but I don't know if that'll ever happen or not.
I'd support that. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I do have one other question, and I've been kind of saving it. You mentioned all of the rescues you do throughout the gorge, and that signals are very tough. So my question is, have you all checked with any of maybe some corporate sponsors about, and maybe you already do you have drones that go into effect on your team? Do you use drones to help locate these people?
Yeah, good question. I'm a drone pilot. I've flown a drone. I'm not commercially licensed, so I have to be careful with how I fly it. But we have brought in teams with drones, with FLIR, with infrared, including a massive drone, which is called a helicopter, with FLIR and all that. The canopy there makes it really challenging. So you would think you could fly a helicopter over and be able to spot somebody with FLIR on it, but we've not found it super useful just because the canopy is so thick. If if it's cold and you got a warm body out there, then that helps. But summertime, everything's hot and you're flying over a heavy canopy, it's pretty tough. But I think drones are a great tool for certain areas, open fields, urban areas. You have to keep the thing in sight, so it's there's some limitations about that capability, but good resource when you can bring it in the right environment.
I know in my district, we've had insurance companies and others that have donated a drone to our sheriff's department or other rescue departments. So I would encourage you to continue to look into those opportunities for that to happen. It's not just I know we're kind of focused today in eastern Kentucky with the Red River Gorge, but western Kentucky, Mammoth Cave, many of the things you all do are the exact same things that are needed when we're dealing with spelunking and those folks that are visiting our cave systems and our national parks here. So again, in our state parks. So it's across the Commonwealth. And so we do appreciate your time today. Thank you for coming up. And if there's no further questions, then we'll bring up our last presentation for the day.
Thank you, guys.
And I would like to thank our committee for being very patient. I don't think we've had this many questions on some topics before, so I'd like to say thank you to our committee members. We have a lot of questions today, so it's obviously a very good topics to bring before the committee. And so I'm very grateful for Representative McCool, my co-chair, for helping put this agenda together. At this time, we have Kentucky Commission on Military Affairs, Brigadier General Steve Bullard, Executive Director, and we also have Colonel Lance O'Brien, President and CEO of the Knox Regional Development Alliance. Please, again, introduce yourselves for the record, and you may begin.
Well, thank you, Chairs McCool and Deneen, Senators, Representatives. I'm Brigadier General Retired Steve Bullard, Kentucky National Guard and U.S. Air Force. Lance?
And as stated, my name's Lance O'Brien. I'm the President and CEO of the Knox Regional Development Alliance, and I appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Lance is he's retired colonel. He was the garrison commander at Fort Knox and a great partner. So real quickly, what I plan to do today, give you a quick overview of the military community in Kentucky, incredibly positive story, and then talk a little bit about legislative priorities. First, the legislature hit a home run with this effort to create the Kentucky Commission on Military Affairs as a base realignment and closing watchdog back in 1992. And since then, we've helped grow the Knox Regional Development Alliance, which is a best practice with Army Installations Command for communities to emulate around the country. In Trigg, Todd, and Christian counties, we have the Christian County Military Affairs Committee and Citizens for Fort Campbell. And in Richmond, we have the Citizens Advisory Committee and Chemical Destruction Community Advisory Board for Bluegrass Army Depot, which has been a massive success story. So together, we advocate for our Kentucky military installations and the communities. For this slide, what is important is the top left. $14.6 billion in direct DoD spending to Kentucky. That's 13th in the nation. You'll note across the top, we rank in the top 20 in every DoD spending category. And what I'd like to point out about that $14.6 billion is that's just personnel and contracts. That is not operations spending. Operations spending can't be quantified. We've tried, DOD's tried. We actually commissioned the University of Louisville Statistics Office, Dr. Paul Coombs, to try, and it's just not quantifiable, and it's approximately the same amount. But these units spend it all over the world, not the state in the world, so it's amazing. Our top defense contractors, Humana, runs the TRICARE for U.S. military and their families all around the world, $7.8 billion contract out of Louisville. And Lockheed Martin at Bluegrass Station does amazing things, supporting our special operations community, and they're helped out by the Kentucky National Guard that oversees Bluegrass Station and does a tremendous job at that, and uses it itself for logistics purposes. And then Bechtel Group is our next highest contractor at Bluegrass Army Depot, and we're working very closely with them on future missions. On our next slide, what's important here, if I can make sure I can get it to work. There we go. What's important here, $3.3 billion in total DoD payroll to 53,661 personnel who get direct DoD paychecks. That's the fourth largest sector of employment, in Kentucky, by industry. And you'll see in the bottom left that this is an Army state. 93% of that goes to support the U.S. Army, which makes sense. And county locations also make sense based on our military installations and the National Guard. On our next slide, we've got our military community in Kentucky in general, and that's our two flagship installations, which are Fort Campbell and Fort Knox. Both are in fantastic shape. Fort Campbell will be getting the MX-75, the new future vertical lift aircraft in 2030. They'll be the first installation to get it. It's a tilt rotor aircraft that replaces the Black Hawk helicopter. Everything goes great there. They have a new commanding general, Major General David Gardner, who's very interested in community outreach and working with you and anyone else to support the installation down there. And I'll talk a little bit more about that on legislative initiatives. At Fort Knox, both these installations are in terrific shape. DOD is going through a pretty significant belt tightening right now to go to a warfighter outlook. They've cut a lot of their general officers, and really all we've lost to Kentucky is the Army Reserve Aviation Command. We lost the one-star general there, and that's 200 local jobs, which the Kentucky National Guard's working to get those folks on board, and then 800 across the nation. If that's all we lose in this, we're doing fantastic. And I know Lance and KRDA is working hard to identify missions from around the country that could come under the Army umbrella at Fort Knox. So that's part of what they do. They're fantastic at it. We have the Coast Guard over in Paducah and Louisville, largest inland Coast Guard water station, Coast Guard sector, Ohio Valley. And Paducah is working with the Coast Guard to attempt to get another boat positioned there to work the rivers and inland waterways. So that's a fantastic success story. Navy Reserve in Louisville supports the fleets out of Norfolk and New Orleans with their sailors. And the Corps of Engineers in Louisville supports our installations in a big way, and they work it throughout the state and through around 8 other states that they support. Then, and I've already talked about Bluegrass Station, almost 4,000 jobs. And I can't applaud the Kentucky National Guard more for what they do there. Bluegrass Army Depot. We just, at the end of August, eradicated the last vestiges of chemical weapons. They're gone. So we eliminated the actual weapons themselves, but we had to do the residue of the weapons and all the fragments. That's done. So now we're moving to site remediation. That'll take us into 2027, and then in 2027, by international treaty, we'll be doing the administrative paperwork cleanup to end all of this mission by December of 2027. And fantastic success story. We met for the last time in person, the CAC CD Cab, in early September and had a big celebration, and we are thrilled with the way this has gone. Over 30 years, it's gone from an adversarial relationship to where these groups are champions of Bluegrass Army Depot, and we're doing great stuff. But Bluegrass Army Depot continues to thrive as a logistics center for all military installations east of the Mississippi River, everything being shipped to Ukraine, to Israel, to Iraq. It all gets prepped at Bluegrass Army Depot and then sent to the ships to be moved forwards. We also have new mission sets there. The National Guard has a national security monitoring program that's going in there. Bluegrass Army Depot has been working on repairing shipping containers, what you see on trucks and ships, and they now have been authorized to manufacture them. So that's a plant. We're working very closely with Bechtel and others for new missions that possibly could include, for example, contractual right now, but we've got both the Senate and House Armed Services Committee all over this, a 155 millimeter ammunition plant. There's only one in the country. It's overwhelmed. It's in Pennsylvania. We need another. Let's put it at Bluegrass Army Depot, and we're working other potential missions. So we are very busy there. I'll talk about the Guard very quickly. 54 armories across the state. The Guard draws from all 120 Kentucky counties. We have 3 training areas, 2 in the east and then a major one in the west at Wendell Ford Training Site. We have the Kentucky Air National Guard in Louisville and Boone National Guard Center in Frankfort. Great stuff. Well, now we'll move to the legislature, and since 1954, we're tracking over 200 military and veterans bills that have been passed. I could go all of these in great detail. There are lists for you here, but you've done great things here, and we're just very proud of the relationship that we have. I'll note we work very closely with Department of Defense, the Defense State Liaison Office. They've just moved that office into Legislative Affairs at our request, and we also work with the Association of Defense Communities. Lance and I are both members there, and I chair the National Council of all my state counterparts. So we work with DISLO will come in November and brief here on their priorities, and they're changing a little bit with the new administration. However, we have already done a lot of their priorities here, and some of their new priorities are things we've already done in Kentucky. So we don't have the resources of Texas or Florida, but we do great work in that area. We're very proud of what you've done for us. No state can pass everything DOD asks for. When DOD comes in, it's a wish list that they have, and they'll give to you in November, and we do what we can. And as far as legislative successes recently, last 2 sessions been very successful for us, especially in 2024, where we supported several DOD priorities there, including the occupational licensure compacts and priority child abuse, case reporting for military installations, and so many other things that you've done for us. So I know we're time constrained. I could talk about each one of these in detail. Working back on our current priorities. So really kind of focusing right now on 2 things. One is occupational licensing compacts. There's 10 listed there, but really the Service Member Civil Relief Act, it's not a compact. It's a federal legislation that kind of gives universal licensing to military-related occupational licenses. And we're a member of 9 of the 17 current DOD occupational compact priorities. These disproportionately affect military spouses. No state will ever get to all of these because there's just too many complications within them. We are one of the leading states in this area, and we're poised this session to do the dietitian licensure compact at the bottom. Representative Grossel, if you remember, had House Bill 70 last session, passed the House 91-0, passed Senate committee, L&O, ran out of time. But she's bringing that back, and we're working very closely with respiratory therapy. Representative Bratcher may sponsor that, but we're working on that right now to bring that into place. There's a few others that are so new we don't have any work done on them yet, like physicians associates, interstate compact for school psychologists and others. So I met on Thursday last week with the leadership of Fort Campbell to tell them how they can get the grassroots going to try to get additional compacts set up. So the other thing that we are doing with Department of Defense and Fort Campbell, and Senator Deneen is playing a big role in this one, is Major General Gardner is prioritizing child care. So the Army has a real need for child care. It's a real problem in the Fort Campbell area. So the Navy and the Air Force have done pilot programs around the country to facilitate the licensing and support for military-trained child care providers. The Army has just picked that up, and they've approved Fort Campbell to have their initial pilot project. So Senator Deneen has reached out to the Cabinet for Health and Family Services to see, does that require legislation? Can it be done administratively? What can we do to help them? So they're responding. And Senator Deneen's also looking at BAH, Basic Allowance for Housing, which Kentucky currently has as an income requirement, as a source of income. But Basic Allowance for Housing is not a source of income. It's an allowance from the Army and really shouldn't count toward your child care eligibility. So I know you're working with DISLO on that, Senator, and I hope that will go well. And that's my presentation. I don't have any specific bills associated with the Kentucky Commission on Military Affairs. We're working to support other legislation. At this particular time, I don't have anything specific. Lance, do you have anything to add?
Of course I do. So I handed out a rack card just for everybody to take a look at. And just to kind of give you some of the facts about Fort Knox. And on Fort Knox last year, $5.6 billion regional economic impact, $1.3 billion in payroll, a workforce of 22,000 at that single location, daytime population of 26,000 Monday through Friday. So I just wanted to let you know from the KRDA standpoint, our number one objective is to continue to advocate and grow Fort Knox because of that economic impact that it has. I will call it the economic engine in that area. We've got a lot of great things going on in Hardin County and Meade County and Bullitt County between logistics, manufacturing, Nucor Steel. But at the end of the day, Fort Knox is still that engine for that entire region, whether people want to believe that or not. So that's our number one objective, is to continue to grow that economic impact. And by that, we are looking to go out and find, I've got some units, organizations in mind that I think would be better fit at Fort Knox. So we are working with some consultants right now and building some stuff. And I will be going to Washington in December to talk with the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Installations, Energy, and Environment about those units and why they'd be a better fit at Fort Knox, because of cost of doing business is much cheaper on Fort Knox, the energy resiliency that's on Fort Knox. If you didn't know, Fort Knox can run off its own power, make its own water, and treat its own wastewater, all within the installation itself with no outside help. There's not another installation in the military portfolio that can say that. Cost of living and quality of life for the folks that come and locate here, much better than anywhere else I've ever been. And that's the number one reason I came back, and Fort Knox to be the garrison commander was my number one choice, because I'd been here from 12 to 15. I was with 3rd Brigade 1ID, went to Afghanistan, came back, and we were getting deactivated. So I went and worked at Human Resources Command for a year before I got picked up for Battalion Command. But because of that formative experience between 2012 and 2015, Fort Knox, while I was sitting in Germany, was my number one choice when I came out on the command list. And it's because of that community. And I think that bringing more folks here would be even better. So number two, our second objective is to help with defense sector economic development. So we work a lot with small businesses that are looking to do defense business. We work with the Kentucky Apex Accelerator. We do have a field rep that's co-located in our office with us. So we continue to do that and help small businesses. I mean, I talked with a strawberry farm I've talked with seamstresses. I've talked with people that make motors for HVACs of how to get them into the SAMS process and be able to go out and bid on defense contracts. The other thing that we're looking to do is how do we bring a defense manufacturer to the greater Fort Knox region. That's one of the things we're continuing to look at. So number one, protect Fort Knox, protect its mission because of its economic impact. Number two, grow defense business in the defense sector in and around Fort Knox. Number three is continue to build partnerships between the local community and Fort Knox. It's actually relatively easy to do there because a lot of the people there, I've never been anywhere else. I'm originally from Missouri, that I felt like I did when I was at Fort Knox. And so I'm here for that. So it's relatively easy to continue to build those partnerships, whether it's intergovernmental support agreements or community programs and things like that. And number four, of course, is to continue to advocate for soldiers and families' quality of life. Before the CASA program was terminated, I was the Civilian Aid Secretary of the Army for Kentucky North. That, again, as a lot of the things that are going in within the Army and the DOD has transformed at this point. So I will continue to do that, and I will continue to help recruiting and anything else I can do. But pending your questions, I know we're on an abbreviated timeline.
Yes, sir. Thank you both for your presentation. We do have a couple of questions here, 2 or 3 questions. Senator Boswell.
Very quickly. First of all, thank you for your service. Second of all, you gentlemen are pretty high up. Can you take this committee for a tour of Fort Knox so we can see the gold?
Well, I will tell you that the gold depository, I've been inside of it. I've signed an NDA, so I can't tell you anything about it. But it is the property of the Department of the Treasury, not Department of Defense. So you'd have to talk to the Treasury.
All right, Representative Wesley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I got a quick question for General Bullard. I got a text this morning about the Army Depot, and they are afraid of a layoff over there. And the workload that McAllister, Oklahoma, and Crane, Indiana, they share the same workload. Is it possible that we can get some of that work brought to the Bluegrass, and that way people won't lose their jobs? Is it possible that we can?
So that's actually been a big success story for us in many ways. You know, we initially had a workforce there well into the 2000s. It's down to 800 now. The community's done a great job working with Bechtel and others and about 38 to 40 local organizations to keep people employed. So the answer is yes on all the above, and those discussions are being held not just by Bechtel, but by other defense primes that are very interested in utilizing Bluegrass Army Depot. Now, there is some risk involved where if we can get that 155 millimeter ammunition plant, manufacturing plant, huge win. They've got a couple other projects that could be a massive, huge win. That will drastically add to the employment picture. We're very optimistic we're going to get some successes. And it's been a real good spin up for us, but there are 800 folks who will eventually have their jobs draw down, so we still have work to do in that area. But I know when we celebrated that was considered part of the success story. But again, so now the Army's looking at eliminating as many of their depots as they can. And many of them are on the chopping block, which technically includes Bluegrass Army Depot. But we've got so much positive going there, and such a positive community relationship, positive steps recently in the interests of Bechtel and others, that we really believe that Bluegrass Army Depot will survive that and continue in the future with hopefully some very robust new missions. And we should know more over the next year to two. And this next National Defense Authorization Act could be some really good news for us.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the opportunity and sharing that with us, and I appreciate that, Chair. Thank you, sir.
Senator Higdon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, General Bullock, Colonel O'Brien. Thank you all for being here today. And General Bullock, we've worked for years and talked about making Kentucky the most military-friendly state in the country. And we've made big strides. But one thing that always comes up as a priority is eliminating the income tax on retirement benefits. And I know we've talked about the cost of that's gone down considerably since Kentucky lowered their income tax. And but have you done a study lately or any current figures on what that would cost?
So there was a fiscal note done last session, sir, Senator, on basically at two elements. Number one, if you just gave only 28,000, a little over 28,000 military personnel get retirement paychecks from Department of Defense in Kentucky. The average is about $25,600. Which is under the 31-1 threshold. So the average doesn't even qualify. So you're talking about just those who are like Lance and myself, or senior enlisted, who put 35 years into the military. We're the ones who would be most affected. The vast majority aren't even affected. So if you only target a military retirement tax exemption at those who are getting a direct DoD retirement paycheck, it's $3.8 million at 3.5%. So it's significant, but it's not massive. Now, if you were to, I know we had talked, Representative Moore looked at, and others, well, what if you gave a tax exemption to all veterans? If you do that, now you're up in the $170 million annual range, and that's a lot more expensive. So the tighter outlook would be pretty much the only realistic way to do it.
Give me that number again for.
I believe it was 3.8 million. I didn't come prepared to talk about that, but I think it was 3.8 million at 3.5%. I have those figures and can send it to you. Okay, I've got the fiscal note that LRC did last session.
And you have something. You have other, I guess, studies other than the fiscal note. I know fiscal notes are generally pretty good, but I've seen some that are not a, you know, depends how you look at things, I guess.
Just our own individual studies looking at what the average pension is, which again, the average pension is only 25,600 approximately. And it's 28,000 people who are affected. So, you know, we have our informal studies on that, but they're not, you know, a university study or anything really official. It's just our internal work.
Well, I for one certainly would support that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator.
Representative Gooch.
Thank you, General. For clarification, Kentucky already exempts pensions, pensions either government or private or state pensions, for anyone making income tax on pensions for anyone making less than $31,000 a year. So effectively, our military are like everyone else.
The majority are covered, yes, sir. So the argument that we would give for that, and has been given over the years, is what you're targeting is that small segment who were senior military leaders, officers, senior enlisted, that you want to then go on and be senior leaders in your community. And I had an Army 4-star general who was an EKU graduate. He poked me in the chest 3-4 years ago, and he said, "You tell your governor that I will never come back to Kentucky to live as long as you tax my military retirement income." And which you can have an argument, you can argue all kinds of different ways. So it would be very much targeted to, you know, attracting those senior leaders.
Okay, but I thought I was right in the fact that we already do that for.
Yeah, and you do exempt military income for those who are actively serving their country. That income is exempted, but it does not apply to retirement income for the military, except for the $31,100.
Thank you.
Representative Bratcher.
Thank you, General. Good to see you again. Good to see you, Colonel, again. Thanks for your presentation. Can you explain or to this body a little bit about the challenges that we have as a state when soldiers come from another state and they have to get double taxed on their car tax?
So what you have there is a situation where if a military member comes in from Europe or from Japan, what we see a lot is that when military members are stationed in Germany, they will buy a high-end car over there, which is actually pretty inexpensive over in Germany. You get a Mercedes or a BMW, or they'll buy something in Japan, and then when they get transferred to Fort Knox or Fort Campbell, they ship the car over, and then they have to pay the sales tax, you know, to register that car in Kentucky. And it's based on the value of that actual car as a BMW or Mercedes. It can be quite high. I know, Lance, you're very familiar with that. So the senior enlisted leadership of Fort Knox came to us, about 3 years ago, and said, boy, we really would like to get that fixed, because there's a lot of things that have been fixed, but that loophole is still there. So we're having young enlisted E4s, you know, young 25-year-old sergeants coming in and owing $3,500 to register their car in Kentucky. So what do? They don't register their car in Kentucky, and they don't become Kentucky citizens. So Kentucky never gets the money in the first place in most instances, because they just live across the border or just don't ever register the car.
Chairman, just to follow up if I could, please. Can you talk a little bit about the moving from state, if somebody's stationed in Alabama and they don't have car, they paid a car tax and they get transferred to Kentucky, to Fort Knox or Fort Campbell, then they've got to pay a tax, then they're transferred back to the state, or they're here on temporary duty.
Same thing
for
applies.
years.
Same
Yeah,
argument.
so-
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Lance, anything to add on that? I know that was the big hot button at Fort Knox.
So I did come from Germany, and I paid a $4,000 tax bill to Hardin County to get my plates.
I believe that that issue was brought up, and I think Representative Griffey has brought that bill. I believe I introduced that bill a couple years back, and then Representative Griffey has picked that bill up, and we're looking at that because it is very impactful when we have people that are transferring into Kentucky from Fort Benning, Georgia, or from anywhere in the world, for that matter. When a family has more than one vehicle, and they have kids, and they may have 2 or 3 vehicles that they have to pay those registration and fees in Kentucky, it can be quite a large amount of money.
And Senator, may I add, that Lance could afford that. He doesn't like it, but he could afford it. But if you're a 25-year-old sergeant and you bought a BMW in Germany and now you owe $4,000 on it when you move to Fort Knox, that's a hardship.
And Chairman, you do make a very good point because, and I'll just talk from the Fort Knox side of things, in that Fort Knox is a very senior installation. 9 general officer commands, more senior staff. Rank on the officer side is probably major or higher. On the non-commissioned officer side, you're probably looking at the staff sergeant, the sergeant first class range, and they're coming and they have kids, and they do have multiple cars and things like that. So that is a very good point you made, yes, sir.
Yeah, Fort Campbell's the exact opposite. 26,000 soldiers, mostly young.
All right, there's one last thing. Do I have any other questions here? Oh, Massaroni, Representative Massaroni.
I have a question about the BAH for Kentucky. I worked in recruiting for a while. Our recruiters, when they would move in, it was almost impossible for them to find a place to live with the amount of BAH they received. I know we addressed it at the time, but is there
Yeah. So we have really hammered the Army and DOD over this because the BAH for Elizabethtown is way too little. It is not enough. But the Army comes back and they'll say, yeah, we agree, but we're all over the country and all over the world, and the problem's worse elsewhere. We can't even get down to that level. And we're trying to deal with Alaska and Military District of Washington and Hawaii and Germany and Japan. And for Kentucky, we don't even get down that far. The money doesn't go that far. So you're so far below our cut rate on where we're going to address that issue, so it doesn't get addressed. So the Army's very well aware, but they're just saying this is a worldwide problem for us as an Army, and yes, it's a problem for you, but it's a bigger problem many other places.
All right, with no other questions, I want to remind everyone that our next meeting will on October the 22nd, where Representative McCool will be chairing that committee. I will not be here. I will be out of state at a conference on military affairs. So I want to thank Representative McCool for swapping these dates with me. Thank you all members for being here today. And if there's no further business before the committee, I have a motion to adjourn. We are adjourned.